Okay, the title of this lecture is Cell Division. And that's actually the title of this unit as well. You see, cells have to divide. Okay, that's kind of duh, but let's write it down anyway. Cells must divide. Why? Why do cells have to divide?
Well, if they didn't divide, how would you make more?
So they can multiply.
Yeah. That's the gist of it, gang. That's how they multiply. Is they that sounds weird when I say it. That's how they multiply. Is they divide. Take that to your math class. Well, cells have to divide to multiply. What? Yes. That's why I don't teach any of the math sciences. Okay? Because we already established, one, all new cells come from old cells. Or we can say existing. Because they don't necessarily have to be old. Some of your cells are old. No offense. Like the cells that you're hearing me with in your inner ear right now are as old as you are. Those cells have not divided since before you were born. Those cells are still there. Now, the ones that don't hear me in your intestines, they're new. Most of them propped up either yesterday or today, and they'll be gone tomorrow or the next day. Okay? Those cells divide really rapidly. So some cells are really old, and some cells are brand new, and just depends on what kind of tissue in your body is dividing is what's going to do that. The other reason they have to divide is cells can only get to a certain size. Now, if I had a cell up here, could you see it?
No.
Why not?
Because it's so small.
Can only get to a certain size.
Yeah, and that size is usually really small. The biggest cells in the world are they're eggs. Eggs are the biggest cells in the world. An ostrich egg, I think, might be the biggest cell that we can get a hold of. Yeah, they're big. They're big. But that just took me back. I was watching my friend Chuck. I took care of his ducks and chickens one day while he was gone. Yeah, Chuck has ducks. Kind of weird. Yeah, no. We went and but they laid 11 eggs. We're like, man, it's almost a dozen. And then while we were there feeding them, one laid an egg. Like, yes, there's a dozen. We took them back.
That sounds like the beginning of a bad joke.
It does.
My
friend Chuck had some ducks. Right. All right. So, only get to a certain size because there is a ratio, okay, as cells grow, their volume grows faster than their surface area. You're like, wow, why more math? I'll tell you why. Their volume grows faster than their surface area. What do I mean by volume? Yeah, the liquid inside. How much liquid is inside of them. Their surface area. Well, that doesn't make sense, Mr. Helly. If they're growing, they're growing. Well, yes and no. What's inside grows faster than what's outside. But why that matters is this. In a cell, their volume is basically their need. And their surface area is their supply. Okay? What do I mean by that? In a cell, the greater volume it has, the more organelles it has, the more machinery it has, the more proteins it has, the more things that require energy and that require food and that require liquid and that require stuff. It also means they're going to be getting rid of more waste. That's the need they have. Now, the surface area is the supply. The surface area of the cell is the place where they would get the nutrients in, or they'd be able to get rid of the wastes out of the cells. So their need grows faster than their supply can grow, if that makes sense. Okay? So I want you to think about it in that context. And we can use a couple of examples. Okay? If we use a box here, okay, let's say this is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Okay? All right. Now, what is the volume? Is 1 what? 1 centimeter cubed. Okay, here's why. You take length times width times height to get the volume, right? It's been a while since I've had some geometry, so if I'm wrong, let me know. But the surface area is what? You take you add up basically all these surfaces here. So what is the surface of this here? 1 centimeter what? Yeah. So it's 1 centimeter squared, and how many sides are there? So this is 6 centimeters squared. So you got a 1 to 6 ratio. Now let's turn this into 2. Now there's no cells even this. I'm sorry, not no cells. There are not many cells that are even this big. Okay, but if we turn this into 2, okay, 2, 2. Oh, you already knew that. 2, 2. Okay, volume of this, length times width times height, would be what? 2 times 2 times 2 would be. 2 times 2 is? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 centimeters cubed. Now, the surface area of this is so let's take one of these surfaces here, okay? The surface area of just this side would be what? 4 centimeters squared, okay? Times 6 would be, 24 centimeters squared. So we went from a 1 to 6 ratio. What can this be reduced down to? 1 over 3. We went from a 1 to 6 ratio to a 1 to 3 ratio. See how this volume quickly is going to outpace the surface area. You want me to do one more? Let me take it to 3. Let's take it to 3. Let's see if we lose our pace again. I'm not very good at drawing cubes.
How do you get surface area?
Surface area, basically you calculate the area of one of these right here, and then you multiply that by the number of those surfaces. It's for a cube. So like if this was just a square right here, it's just length times height for that square. But because there are 6 squares in a cube, we multiply that by 6. Does that kind of make sense? Let's try this next one. So let's do 3, 3, and 3. Okay? Volume is what? Is 27 centimeters cubed. Okay? Surface area. So 9 for one surface. 9 times 6 is 54. Okay? So now we've gone, this is 1 over 6, I'm sorry, 1 to 6. This ratio is 1 to 3. This ratio is now 1 to 2. So the need grows a lot faster on the inside. Now, are all cells cube? No, they're not. This is just an easy way to do the calculation. But some cells are cubed. In fact, there's some cells in your body that are so cube-shaped that they're seriously called cuboidal. Yeah. So, draw a nucleus in there, you're all set. Okay. So, so that's how they divide. Now, I'm going to, or that's why they have to divide. Now, I'm going to clarify this by telling you there's only 2 ways that eukaryotic cells divide. Only two ways that eukaryotic cells divide. And I bet you've probably heard of them. They both start, both start with mite. In fact, both start with mite.
Like might.
Oh, I'm sorry, they don't start with mite. They both start with I totally lied to you. I'm really sorry. They both start with First one is called mitosis. Mitosis is division of most cells. Okay. End with two cells that have the same number of chromosomes as the first. Okay? So if I start with a cell that has 46 chromosomes, like we do, it divides out and gives you two cells that have 46 chromosomes. That's most of your cells.
Wait, that says the same number of chromosomes.
As the first. I completely lied about the mite. It might not even look like that at all. Okay? It is. I've heard this word pronounced meiosis and meiosis, and I'm not exactly sure which one. Depends on if you're German or not, I guess. Meiosis is division of only, ready, of sex cells. What are sex cells? Sperm and egg. There's a couple other things it could be too. Pollen grains or plant sperm, that could be one thing too, but let's focus on that. It's only of sex cells, okay? It ends with cells that have half of the chromosomes of the original or the first, okay? So if you start with a cell that has 46 and you go through this process, what do you end up with? Each of these new cells is going to have what'd you say? 46 divided by 2 is? 23. Okay? Folks, listen. This is why you are half mom and half dad. Okay? Because those cells divided and each contributed half of the chromosome, so when they recombine, you have a new cell that has a completely different set of chromosomes than either mom or dad, because a combination of both. But this type of division only occurs when making sex cells, like sperm or egg.